Coming to you live from Fayetteville, Arkansas in the beautiful Appleby Business Center studios. It's time for Northwest Arkansas Business Radio with Adam Robison.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adam Robison, and you have landed on another episode of Northwest Arkansas Business Radio. I'm really looking forward to today's episode because I'm just going to share with you not the business of a certain industry, but the business of being an individual. Today, I present to you my friend. He's a business leader. He's a local entrepreneur. His name is Bryan Raya. Bryan, go ahead and introduce yourself to the Northwest Arkansas Business Radio audience, and welcome to the show.
Hey, Adam, it is great to be here and just be chatting with you. Hello, NWA. This is Bryan Raya with DBR Bookkeeping, doing business right. I just started a brand new bookkeeping business here in NWA. I am based out of Fayetteville. But I'm actually relatively new to this area. Like many people in this region, I've relocated here recently, and I'm just looking for opportunities, love networking, love meeting new people, and really just helping people, businesses, and everybody succeed.
Right. And Bryan, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you giving us just a little bit of your time. As we began to prepare for this episode, we realized that preparing for this episode is a lot like preparing for a bookkeeping client, right? You got to sit down, get to know them, find out about their interests and what they're about. Tell me, let's start with your story, because you have an interesting story. You've been here, there, and it seems like everywhere. So go ahead and share with us. Start with your just a little bit about your journey from being born in California and just as far as you want to go there.
Yeah, for sure. So yes, I was born in Central Valley, California, in Modesto. Was that? Yeah. No, I was actually born in Manteca, California.
Hey, that's prettier than Modesto. If you've been to California, you know.
Yes. So basically, started in the Central Valley, Manteca to Modesto, and to Fresno. And I actually was really into music. Music has been my huge passion and life for most of my life. I was in high school band, and I did that. And I went to college, and I got a degree in music, in trombone performance. I'm a trombone player, brass player. I was a leader. I was a drum major. I know a lot of people, and this is a real big band region with a lot of great successful programs here in the NWA. So I was part of all that, 25 plus years ago. So I went to school, got my degree in trombone performance, and I had to decide, well, what do I want to do after I graduate from college?
Well, let's pump the brakes right there, because you get into music. You're an exceptional musician. Did you spend any time in trying to perform? What job or career did you go in when it came time to?
Well, when you're studying music at that 18 to 21, right? You're in that kind of conservatory model. You're taking private lessons. You're performing in different ensembles, bands, marching band, jazz band, smaller chamber music, and to develop your skills to be a professional musician. That's like what college is. Okay. And so when you're at kind of finishing college, you have to decide, well, how do I want my career to become? Like, where do I want to go? Do I want to become a freelance musician in California? Do I want to move down to LA? Oh, nice. Do I want to, do I want to teach private lessons in the region? And I have to make those decisions. And that's what kind of led me to going, well, what about the military?
Okay, I didn't see that coming. That was a bit of a surprise. I thought you were going to pick one of the directions you had talked about. So what made you decide military?
Right. Well, the military, at the time, this was 2003, 2004. So if you're thinking about history, we were in the middle of Iraq and Afghanistan, and there was a lot of questions and tension about the world. And so I remember the 2004 election, and it was about the time I decided to join the military. And I was like, well, I always had a purpose to serve. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to get out and meet other people from around the world and the country. And I wanted to do that in a way where I still got to play music. And the military bands, the Army bands specifically, they reached out to me and they said, well, you're a great trombone player. You're a great musician. Would you like to be part of this? So I auditioned. and I prepared for all that, and they got accepted. And they're like, great, let's do this. And they gave me some options of where to be stationed.
Wow,
they're like,
congratulations.
Yeah. And so they're like, there's here, here's here, here's here. And how about Hawaii? And I'm like,
no way.
Well, Hawaii? Okay. Oh, darn. I got to get stationed in Hawaii.
I mean, I've heard of bad gigs before, but Hawaii?
And I was
Come on, man.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to go play music in Hawaii. And get paid for it.
I love it.
And I was like, sign me up.
Yeah.
So of course I go do the whole basic training. I do all the different, AIT, advanced individual training.
Yeah.
For all those military people out there. I did all that, and I got stationed to Hawaii.
That's incredible.
And it was an awesome experience.
Yeah, I bet it was. I remember when recruiters would call me just when I was graduating high school. I've always been a big guy, and so I'd tell them, well, hey, I'm kind of a big guy, and they always said, don't worry, you won't be when we're done with you. And now that I'm in my late 40s, I kind of wish I would have taken them up on that some 30 years ago. Who knows what would have happened? Okay, so you choose the military, you get into the military band. How long are you in the military? And then I guess you're not in the military anymore. Yeah. So let's talk about that transition.
Yeah. So I was in the military for just over 8 years.
Wow.
I was stationed in Hawaii. I also was deployed to Iraq. And I spent over there for a year in 06, 07. I came back to Hawaii. I was stationed in South Korea in Seoul, so I lived over there. Then I lived in Alabama and Virginia and stationed in San Antonio, Texas. So I got to, some really great experiences. And then I had, about that 8.5 year mark, I had, kind of the choice to make. I was like, well, do I get in? Do I get out? It's still 8. And so, the opportunity to get out was presented, and I was like, well, I'm going to use my GI Bill and go back and pursue music at the more academic collegiate level. Yeah, I think by this phase, I transitioned from being just a trombone player to being a conductor, to being a leader, to being a person in front. And I always felt really compelled to be a conductor. And I wanted to go again, get more education, more training for that.
So, I want to stop you right here because I think this is really interesting. Before I knew you, and this may sound incredibly absurd, but before I knew you, I always thought of a conductor as someone who just, kind of made sure the band got through the piece and stayed with rhythm and with time and everything else. But since then, I've learned a conductor is actually a real leader of people, correct?
Yes.
Talk about the leadership that goes on when you're in that position as a conductor.
Yeah. So, and that's what really drew me to it, is that, the conductors inspire the musicians who are making the music that inspires the audiences.
I love that.
Like, think about that. Like, the musician, you're sitting there just playing, and you're just like, whatever, and playing my notes. But that conductor is there to like really guide and inspire you as the musician to perform. And that's what I wanted to do.
Absolutely.
So, and it's all mostly through non-verbal communication, strong eye contact, your use of hands and gesture, your body language. And that's just on the musical side of it. Then there's the knowledge and communicating verbally in rehearsals, that leadership to, get people to collaborate and listen to one another.
I love that.
And I think that's, I always felt as a musician, I was like, and in our world, we just need to listen more. Just listen to each other. Listen and be open to what you're hearing and the sounds around you, and collaborate it to make harmony.
Absolutely. I've mentioned just a handful of times since we kicked off Northwest Arkansas Business Radio that I'm a big leadership guy. It's where I kind of like to sit and camp and emphasize the importance of leadership in various contexts. I know that when I'm up in front of a room, I feel like the audience is in the palm of my hand, there's no better feeling, right? What's it feel like as a conductor when you know you're in that zone and you're making great music and you can feel the energy of the audience behind you? What's it like? Take us in that moment.
It is truly one of the most magical places, I think, to experience. There is certain magic when you're playing and making the music, and there's certain magic for when you're in the audience and you're listening to the final product. But when you're the conductor, you're right there, like, literally front row seat, and you're not just there, but you have effect. If you want to go faster, you can go faster. You want to go slow down, slow down. You want to play louder or softer. You have like this kind of control, but you don't have that control because you don't really have, it's not like you have knobs and buttons to control the levels of the ensemble.
Right.
You really have to have that rapport to build that relationship with people to go like, hey, and they have to respect you and trust you that you're going to actually, hey, if I show you play softer, they actually respond to it and do that. And it's that type of relationship, this very like nonverbal, professional, hey, we're working together to make a great product.
Yeah, but it's absolutely symbiotic and exchange from the eyes and nonverbal behavior. Wow. I didn't know that this was going to be such a thing for me to dig into, but that's just so cool to, I could just imagine myself in that kind of situation. Good stuff. Good stuff. So before we leave the topic of the military, I'm just curious, like what inspired you to look into the military? And then specifically, how has that decision impacted both your personal and professional life years later?
Yeah. So at the time, here I am just finishing college and trying to figure out what I want to do. I knew I wanted to be in music. I wanted to play, but I really wanted to travel. I wanted to meet new people, and I wanted to expand my knowledge. Because before I joined the military, I was all music all the time. That's all I knew. Marching band and trombone and brass playing. That's all I thought about 24/7. And I knew deep down in my heart, I was like, I probably should branch out and diversify myself as a person and grow as an individual in other ways.
Okay.
That would be good. So I think that's why I really kind of went that way. And I saw the military as a way to diversify and grow. And you talk about, professional and, professional development. Well, then the military gives you all these great skills of leadership. They give you, you go to basic training and you meet drill sergeants and you're shooting weapons and you're doing things that typical musicians don't necessarily do. And I wouldn't say I was the most hua, as we say in the military, soldier. And but it was great just to do something that was not music all the time. And I really embraced that experience. And I think it's really kind of what helped drive me to be the person I am today.
Okay. Now, one thing you said I thought was interesting. You actually did spend some time in Iraq. You went into the military, auditioning to play music in the band. Was your work over in Iraq? Did you get to play any music, or was that all just, business?
Yeah, I actually did.
Okay.
So part of my mission was to play music for soldiers, and guests down in Iraq.
Wow.
It was part of morale.
Okay.
Right. The soldiers, they'd be working, these 12-hour long days, and they would like have barbecues or go to we had this random coffee shop on our base, and they just want to just imagine you're far away from home, thousands of miles from home, from your wife, your family, your kids, your husband, everything. And you just go to a little shack and listen to American jazz for just an hour. And you just close your eyes with a coffee in your hand, and it's like just a bit of home.
Wow.
And that's what we brought to our soldiers.
I love that.
And that was part of our mission. Now, other part of our mission was, we had to do some security stuff for checking IDs and, watching doors and, those type of things as well. But it was kind of a dual type of thing. But, we always loved playing music. We always loved really trying to, entertain our soldiers and just try to get them to decompress from the very stressful life of deployment.
What a critical mission, man. That's super. I love that. I've always had military friends. A lot of the kids that I used to teach in high school left high school and went into the service. And so having a relationship with several current and former soldiers, I'm sure I can speak on behalf of them how much they appreciate your work when they're over there serving in their tours as well. So clearly a talented musician, but you didn't want to just rest on those laurels. You decided you wanted to kind of fill out your life and pursue other strengths, including entrepreneurship. Now, I've had many adventures. Entrepreneurship was probably one of the tougher ones that I've ever pursued. So how did your background contribute to your decision to become a business owner?
Well, as a musician, as an artist, and a creative type, even before I joined the military and in the military, and after I left the military, I went back to school and was teaching in higher education as a college professor for a while. I noticed that musicians, there's that idea of the poor starving musician out there. And it is a real thing. I know so many great, talented people out there who really struggled financially, in their families. And so when I really kind of thought about what else I could do in music, that wasn't necessarily more music, I was like, well, how can I help these people be successful in their careers? How can I help people be successful in managing their money and making good decisions on how to make their passions be successful? And I was like, well, I thought about, and I was doing that as a college professor. And I was teaching I was a college band director, and I was doing that, and it was great. I loved it. I talked about leadership. I was talking about, building your resume, building skills that can help you be successful past college. But then I was really thinking about, well, what other skills are they not teaching in school?
Right.
And I was like, nobody taught me about entrepreneurship. Nobody taught me about how to be a business owner, or how to, all those type of things that I've recently discovered. So I was like, that's what I wanted to do. That's what really drove me. I want to help people be successful in their passions and let them focus on their passions. So yes, while I do, that's probably my natural niche is the musicians, artists, creative types, but all business owners are like that. They have this idea and they want a product or a service that they are passionate about. And I want them to be able to do that, but they need help, as we all know, in the business community, because they don't know all the ins and outs of maybe bookkeeping or marketing or, all these, networking and, how to do payroll and these aspects that they didn't think about that. So I wanted to help them.
Okay. So your bookkeeping work, as DBR bookkeeping, you essentially are pursuing that career and developing that business with a real servant's mindset, a servant's heart.
For sure.
Love that, man. I think that says a lot about you. I know you pretty well. I'm enjoying getting to know you better. But guys, if you get an opportunity to meet Bryan or do business with Bryan, that's one thing you'll find is he consistently has a servant's heart when he reaches out to others. And that's pretty cool, especially when you're looking at somebody in the world of business. So you still have all of these talents when it comes to music. You went to the military. You've started your own business. That seems like a lot. How do you find balance between all of these so that each get the appropriate time they should have from you?
Well, I think that's, if you were to ask anybody, business owner, entrepreneur, any busy person, balance is, so cruel. It's so key and crucial. And I think in my journey, especially in the last year or so, as I've really kind of expanded my skills, and getting my certifications in bookkeeping and project management and, bookkeeping courses that I've taken and just trying to start the business and networking, I have to tell myself yes, I probably could spend 14 hours a day on all this.
Right.
And there's that, I have to be patient with the process. And I think that's my biggest probably advice I'd tell anybody is you have to be patient with the process. You just can't be right, I started a business. I'm just going to work super hard for 20 hours a day for the next month. And then I'm going to be super successful. You're going to burn yourself out. And you're going to burn your friends and family, and you're probably not going to be eating healthy. You're not going to be sleeping very well. And for the long run, you're not going to be successful. And I think it's the same thing. I think I learned from the military, because you have to pace yourself through basic training, through your deployment. You can't get all tense. You're going to be there for a year. You got to pace that. And even in higher education, if you're going to pursue a degree, you can't be I'm going to be a great student for one semester. And then, well, what about the other 7, 8, 9 semesters?
That's right.
You have to pace that energy. You
Absolutely.
have to find that balance. You have to be able to yes, I'm going to work hard, but I have to take that time to step away and breathe, find
it's a marathon,
hobby.
Not a sprint.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And that's where I think, my life experiences kind of just keep that in perspective, understanding that I am not going to be successful and have this, $1 million business in a month, 3 months, 6 months, that it is a process, and to be patient with it.
Okay. So DBR bookkeeping, DBR stands for doing business right?
Correct.
Okay.
And actually, that's how I signed my emails as a college professor, because I'm actually Dr. Bryan Raya.
Okay.
So, when I first started my business, I wanted to keep that DBR identity as part of my brand. It's catchy, it's fun, but I don't want an SSA, Dr. Bryan Raya bookkeeping. That's just a weird name. So
Yeah.
I took that name, DBR Bookkeeping, and then I was like, well, what other business things? And I was like, well, there's a B in there. And what about doing business right? And that really resonated with me because I was like, well, that's what bookkeepers are trying to do. We're just trying to help business and entrepreneurs do things right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fix things.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep people out of jail.
Yeah,
Make sure
exactly.
taxes are current.
And let people feel confident that, like, okay, I am doing my business right. I know that things are being done.
Sure. Okay. Well, I know I'm a part of the networking world with you. There are a lot of bookkeepers out there. How do you position DBR bookkeeping so that it stands out from the rest of the competition?
Yeah, well, I think it's my background. It's my story. It's what I have to offer to the business owner and entrepreneur. I think with my background in higher education, with 9 years of college, I really think I can understand and relate to that. But I also understand like the military life, veterans. I feel like I can resonate with veterans and their service and their families and that perspective. I can really connect with that business owner entrepreneur. And I think that's something that's so important because bookkeeping, it's personal. Yeah, I'm asking clients, I need you to share with me all your financial information. Oh, how much debt you have, how many loans you have, what are you buying and spending. These are sometimes very personal things for anybody. And so for what I can do is like, I have to develop that trust. I have to develop that rapport with them to say, hey, I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to, say, oh, what are you doing? I'm not going to yell at you for, you and your decisions that you're making. I'm here to help, guide, mentor, and develop you so that you can be successful. And I think that's my background with working with people was all over the world in the country can really help me, smooth that out as a bookkeeper.
Well, I got to tell you, it hasn't been that long since you and I sat down for that conversation. I came to you and I said, Bryan, I need some help with this business. And that was even before Business RadioX for Northwest Arkansas came into existence. I dreaded that conversation with you. I love hanging out with you, but I did not want anyone to see what I had done with my money, what I was spending my money on. But you did an incredible job of bringing comfort to that situation, helping me maintain my dignity in that situation. It really wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. But I'm telling Northwest Arkansas Business Radio listeners, when you get ready to go and work with Bryan, and he's getting ready to look into your books and help you get everything under control, the fear that you have of having that conversation with Bryan is so much worse than the actual conversation that you have with Bryan. It was actually if that kind of thing can be pleasant, it really was. And so I appreciate that.
I appreciate that. And that's why we encourage all those entrepreneurs out there. I was like, they are scary conversations. You are going to have some weaknesses.
Absolutely.
In your business, and you have to find those connections to help support those areas that you might not be totally 100% at.
Yeah. So I love your story, man. You've done just a handful of things that are incredible. You've lived everywhere, it seems, around the world. In what ways do you draw upon some of those unique life experiences, whether it's military service or music or bookkeeping? In what ways do you draw upon those unique experiences to provide the kind of exceptional service that I just talked about for DBR bookkeeping?
It's the people. Adam, it's all about the people. It's their stories. I have met hundreds, maybe thousands of people from around this country. Young, old, successful, unsuccessful people, people who've had, great relationships, people who had bad relationships, people, with a lot of kids, people who are single and with kids. And all their stories, I really just try to just take it all in. And when I talk to people, there's this openness, right? There's this approach.
I sense that.
There's this approach to like, hey, I've heard it all. I've seen it all. And I'm still learning and more about the people that I've grown and network with. And when I talk with business owners and entrepreneurs and hearing their stories, and like, that's what I want. Like, just tell me what you want. Let's talk about what you're doing and how I can help with that. And just that experience of like, oh, I know I know I have a story about that. I know a guy who I met who had a similar story to yours that I can relate to, and I can feel like I can connect with those clients to provide that customer service aspect of like, okay, I see what you're looking for. I see what you need. I see why you could be motivated to do what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Because I have my life and my experiences to draw upon.
That's so great. I love that. So let's talk about strategies or insights that have been instrumental in growing your bookkeeping business. Who do you look to for leadership, or where have you found those strategies or insights that have allowed you to, develop and incorporate into your business?
So when I started this, I started really from ground zero. I got connected with Bill Von Fumetti with Booming Bookkeeping Business, and he has a mentorship program for people developing bookkeeping businesses, and it's great. And I'm still part of that. And there's a Facebook group, there's a weekly webinar, Zoom meetings, and there's an email when we can ask questions, and it's a great resource for us to like, okay, I can do this.
Okay.
This isn't as scary.
Deal.
This isn't as scary as I thought. So that's one big major resource. And that's more for like the actual bookkeeping aspect. But I knew that I had to go out and, build a network. Since I just moved to Northwest Arkansas in August, 9 months ago, I didn't have much of a network. I had to basically, I need to go meet people.
Right.
I need to go, find colleagues and, people, business-minded people, for just my own sanity and motivation, but also to help find clients and help find opportunities for that. So that's why I really, I think the networking aspect was huge, because then I just kind of start learning ideas about, posting on social media, or, how to use Google My Business, or some marketing tips, or how to talk to people, or what are some good strategies, developing your 30-second pitch and your minute pitch. And you just get more comfortable with those type of things. And that's all because I just went out there and just had that open mind and listened to other people and take their feedback and ideas. Whether I agreed with them or not, I was like, ooh, I can take something from that.
Sure.
And I think that was like a huge aspect, especially in the last 6 to 9 months, was a big part of the growing process to get me from like, I don't know anybody to now, months later, I was like, all right, I actually feel like I'm much more comfortable with a group, a network of people here in this region.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about another L word. We've already talked about leadership, but another word that I'm just as interested in is leverage. Now, a lot of people, you've been talking about having to build your network and how your network has been coming together up here for the last 9 months or so. How do you leverage your network? There may be people in the listening audience that don't even understand you should leverage your network. So if you wouldn't mind, just share with us a little bit, what does it mean to leverage your network, and then how do you do it?
When I think about my network, I think that the biggest thing is that I'm not approaching everything like I'm trying to sell them. Okay. I'm not trying to get a client. I think when I meet other business-minded people, entrepreneurs, all those type of stores, I was like, what do they have to offer? What is their story? What is their product? What is their service?
Sure.
And I want to know about that. And I'd be sincere about that. Be truly sincere about understanding what they have to offer. And people go, well, why is that important? And I was like, well, because I was like, when I talk to people, when I talk to potential clients, I want to be able to provide not just for them bookkeeping knowledge and maybe some, business ideas. I want to be like, well, I also know a great insurance person. I also know another person who's like, oh, you're looking to buy a house? I know a handful of realtors or a mortgage lender. Okay. You're looking for some marketing side stuff. I have this network, and I could provide to my clients a much better service than just like, I provide bookkeeping.
That's excellent.
That's it. I don't know anybody else around here.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And so how do I leverage? I was like, I want to leverage those connections, those people, and be sincere with that, and not going like, well, I'm going to be nice to you so that maybe you're going to refer to me a client.
Right.
Like, I just don't want to. I think that's not a healthy way to do that. And I promote that with others. Like, when I reach out to people, hey, do you want to get coffee? I just want to like hear more about your business. And there are people out there like, oh my gosh, another person just trying to sell me something. Sure. I don't want to, sorry, I'm too busy. I don't got this. And I was like, and sometimes I get a little like,
Well, and it's very much what this radio station here is built on, and that's the philosophy of givers gain. The more that you give to other people, if you put that energy out there, if you put that effort out there, I believe it's just a matter of time before it comes back to you. And so, I love catching other people at their best, and I think people are at their best when they're helping other people.
Yes, I agree.
And so I love what I'm hearing from you. I'm going to let you be the doctor of the hour and dispense some advice here. What advice do you have for individuals who might be considering entrepreneurship? Maybe it's after a career in the military or after pursuing other passions. What advice do you have for someone that's saying, you know what, I think it's time to jump in the entrepreneur pool?
For any veterans out there or people who have a military background or families like that, do not discredit your military background. You have experienced things that most people in our country have not experienced.
I love that.
That discipline and that, drive and, task oriented and leadership and, just, take care of the mission, the mission first, right? That those ideals that are in the military are huge. And I think some people in the military are like, well, all I did was fix trucks in the military. I didn't take any skills from that. Like, actually, you really did. And that's why I talk about like veterans. I was like, go for it. Like, you have skills more than you think you know.
Sure.
And I think anybody who else has a passion, like if you have a true passion for something, right, then explore that passion. Go and research about it. Go find a mentor. Find somebody who you can talk to about it, who's excited about it. And then just, build your network, your influences around you to, help you answer those initial questions. Like, so how do I set up a bank account? What about an LLC? What does even an LLC mean? Like, there's all these questions that you might not know, and that's okay. Here's the secret. Most entrepreneurs don't know all of these things. They really don't.
So I don't have to know all the answers to start my own business.
No, you don't.
Okay.
You don't need to know all the answers, but you have to be willing to go out there.
You heard it here first, folks.
You have to be willing to go out there and find the answers and go willing to be like, be vulnerable to like, and humble that like, I don't know everything. And that's okay. Because there is somebody out there who will know something or at least direct you in the right way.
Okay. We've just got a few more questions for you. We're just about out of time here, but looking ahead, what are your future aspirations for DBR Bookkeeping? You have any exciting projects or collaboration in the pipeline? What's next for Bryan Raya?
Yeah. So I'm excited about obviously my business and what the services that I can provide. I'm always continually trying to learn more about bookkeeping, more about the industry. There's always things to learn about, payroll and, accounts receivable and invoices and, QuickBooks. I'm QuickBooks certified. I'm a pro advisor, and I'm always trying to dig into QuickBooks and how I can better use that program to better serve my clients. But another new adventure that I'm really excited about, and that's kind of like working with you a little bit that you've kind of introduced me, is starting my Doing Business Right podcast. And I'm super excited about going out there and, talking to entrepreneurs and business owners and really focusing on like some of the questions you've kind of asked me, but getting more into like the nitty gritty of those business details and asking like, what are some lessons learned that they had, and when it comes to like their business? Do you wish you had a separate bank account? Do you wish you had maybe hired somebody earlier, or maybe you had a better marketing plan? I just want to kind of have those discussions and see what worked, what didn't work. And I'll be having guests here from the NWA that I can help promote their businesses and their stories, but more into an aspect of like that new entrepreneur.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there you heard it. Bryan breaking some news here as he's announcing that he is going to be producing his own podcast through Northwest Business Radio and Business RadioX called Doing Business Right. And so you be expecting that as it comes down the barrel here within the next few weeks or so. I think it's going to be a really, really interesting listen to. So, Bryan, thanks so much for being here today. I'm curious. I know you've got some social media stuff out there. If somebody wants to follow you or follow DBR Bookkeeping, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so I do have a website, dbrbookkeeping.com, actually created by a local entrepreneur here, Jacob Morton of a Blue Anchor. I'll give a shout out to my friend and colleague.
I just saw Jacob a few hours ago. I didn't know he did your website.
Yeah, he did my website. So I am also on Facebook. Look for DBR Bookkeeping. And I'm also on Google. If you were to start searching, DBR Bookkeeping, NWA or Fayetteville, I should be popping up right there, and that will give you links to my website, to my social media, and just my updates of what I'm doing as well.
Outstanding. Well, Bryan, on behalf of our Northwest Arkansas Business Radio audience, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's fascinating. It's the second or third time I've heard it, and I was still riveted by the detail and learning more about you and DBR bookkeeping. That's all the time we have today for Northwest Arkansas Business Radio. Again, my name is Adam Robison, and we will see you next time.